Hi everyone, this is Ashley with CT and Rena Digitals. I'm going to do a backdrop edit tutorial for my Boho mirror backdrops from my Etsy shop. I already have the images open that I want to use. These ones are straight on. If you want to do your subject at an angle or in front of the mirror, and you would have to take a photo of them from the angle that's going to be showing in the mirror as well. But I'm going to be using a straight on shot, so that way I don't have to bother with a reflection in the mirror. I already went to my quick selection tool, selected my subject, copied and then pasted into another layer. So I can just go ahead and select all and edit and copy and paste into my backdrop. I'm going to go up to my move tool, and I'm going to click on one of the boxes. I'm going to make sure that this is selected right here to keep my proportions. And first things first, the light is coming from this way on the backdrop. It's coming from this way on her. So I'm going to right click in there and flip horizontal. To scale, I'm just got this vase is in chair, kind of what I'm going by, like how tall she would be to kind of get on the stool in the photo. I think that looks good. The angle I shot her at was slightly a little more upward, and I kind of want for all of her dress to be in the photo. So I'm going to go up to Filter, Liquify, and I'm just going to make my brush a little bit bigger over here, and I'm going to bring her dress up, and I'm going to bring this down a little bit. That way it's all in the frame. This thing is okay. And now I want to get rid of this little part over here. I'm going to create a layer mask on her. Go over to my brush, soft brush at 100% opacity, change the size, and zoom in. Black brush. I'm going to brush this part off. Oop. Okay. Now I'm going to create a new layer above my background, and I'm going to change it to multiply blend mode. I'm going to add my shadows to the floor and behind her. So this fabric right here on the floor would be, I'm going to do about 20% opacity. I'm going to click Alt and click a dark layer or dark color on the fabric, and I'm just going to brush in some shadows right there. Now, I'm not going to brush in shadow up here because the light from the window is going to be coming, she's away from the mirror, so it's going to be coming between her and the mirror as well, so I would not want to add shadow there. I'm going to create another layer, multiply. I like to do my shadow layers on different layers, that way I can tweak them individually. Go down, and I'm going to up my opacity to 100%, make my brush smaller, and I'm going to brush in shadow at the bottom of her dress. Lower the opacity on that just a little bit. Okay. Zoom out. Okay. Good. So I have my shadows back here. I don't want much shadow right here because that's where the light is coming from. I'm going to add a little bit more though. Create another layer, multiply, bring my opacity down to around 20 and brush in just a little bit more shadow. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to add some, I'm going to click on her. I'm going to go up to my adjustments and create a brightness and contrast layer. I'm going to create a clipping mask by clicking right here, or you can right click the layer and add some contrast. And now if this photo has some pretty warm tones in it, and she has some warm tones too. If it didn't, I would adjust the coolness and the warmth on her a little bit more, but I'm going to leave it what it is for now. I'm going to click on her, and I'm going to use my burn tool with my shadows selected. About 20, 26, 25% is what mine is on, and I'm just going to add in some deeper shadows on her just to match the backdrop a little bit more. Has some pretty deep shadows on there. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and do another adjustment, curves layer. I'm going to bring it down a little bit, and then I'm going to make sure my layer mask is selected. I'm going to come over to my black brush at 100% opacity, soft brush, and I'm going to brush it off of her face and where my highlights would be. Actually, I'm going to click on her, go to my dodge tool on my shadows. Sorry, this thing is in the way. On my shadows, and I'm going to take a little bit of shadow off of her face there. Okay, now I'm going to make sure she's selected. I'm going to click my, before I do that, mine was pretty cleaned up on the edges, but on her layer mask, make sure your black brush is selected, and zoom in. See, there's a little area right there. Black brush, 100% opacity, and make sure you clean up the edges of your subject. For tutorial purposes, I'm not going to go too far into this with cleaning up the edges. See, there's still some like gray showing through here to on the hair. I would lower the opacity quite a bit and just brush that away little by little. If you use 100% opacity, it's not going to look realistic, and it's just going to take away chunks at a time, and you don't want to do that. You want to take away a little bit at a time when you're dealing with the hair so it blends better. Okay, and I would typically do this all the way around, but to save some time for the tutorial, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to click on her. I'm going to go to my blur tool. I have it at 100% strength, and I'm going to go around the edges of her, and I'm going to add blur just to the edge of her body. This is going to make her body blend into the backdrop more evenly. Would go around the entire outside. I'm adding a little bit more because I didn't clean up her edges as much as I normally would, so I'm just going to add a little bit more blur. Oop. You can speed up through these parts of the videos if you need to. typically add blur much to the hair because I usually clean it up pretty good. Never add blur to the face or like the center of the body. I like to keep, I mean, it depends on your style too, but I like to keep it that way. Okay. And now I want to add blur to my backdrop. In order for all digital backdrops, if you're trying to create a depth of field whatsoever in your images, you're always going to want to blur the backdrop. So I'm going to duplicate the backdrop layer. I'm going to go up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and I'm going to add about 4 to this one, I think, maybe 3. Yeah. And then I'm going to create a layer mask. I'm going to come over to my black brush at 100% opacity, and I'm going to brush it off right where she is standing. That would be my focal point in my image. Zoom in. See, like this fabric would be in focus with where she was standing. So if you take it away, see, it added all that depth behind her. You do not want all this to be in focus when she's standing in front of it. Okay. And I'm happy with that. If I was being picky, I would maybe cool her down just a little bit. So the way that I do try to make the subject match a little bit more, there's multiple ways you could do it, but one way, I'm going to grab my brush and I'm going to hold down Alt and I'm going to select the color. Oops, sorry, make sure the background's selected. I'm going to select this color, blue color in the background. I'm going to go up to my subject, click on her, and I'm going to create a solid color filter. And that's going to make that color over her. And I'm going to change the blending mode to soft light or hard. You could play around with it. Sometimes they keep it on normal and I just do a really low opacity. But I typically use soft light at a low opacity too, depending on the image. And as you can see, that kind of just gives her more of like a blue hue over her. I don't really necessarily, I probably wouldn't use it for this image because if I take it away, as you can see, her warm tones match the warm tones in the backdrop. And the blue is kind of not the focus tone in the image. So I'm happy with this. As I said, I would clean up the edges a little bit more if I was delivering this to my client, but I'm happy with it. If you have any questions, you can message me on Etsy. If you're a studio maternity photographer, please join my group on Facebook. It is linked in the listing description. Before and after. Before